Kinetics has been made in association with Road Race Parts. Top quality, best prices, no compromise. Head to roadraceparts.com to get parts for your racing vehicles now.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Velocity Kinetics. Usually, more recently, should I say, most of these have been about Formula 1, tech in Formula 1, how things have been going in Formula 1. Well, maybe not so much about tech, but how things have been going in Formula 1. Today I want to sort of turn things back to the road. Now, this is something I was thinking of the other day when I was driving to work. Mostly because this particular piece of technology nearly caused me to crash into someone. Now, I was stuck behind a Mercedes GLA, I think it is, the rival to the BMW X6. Something just as useless, just as pointless, but because it's got a German badge on it, people keep buying it because, well, they're fucking morons, really, aren't they? But basically, the Mercedes, it was speeding up and slowing down too naturally for it to be a person, and it was meaning I couldn't pull in because it kept adjusting the speed accordingly because it was using radar-guided cruise control. So I ended up having to slam the brakes on really hard when I didn't want to have to do so because it's on a dual carriageway. You don't really want to have to. If you're having to touch the brakes on a dual carriageway or motorway or freeway, usually that means you're in trouble if you're doing that. Now, it's not to rant about radar-guided cruise control on its own. What I was thinking about afterwards, when I was getting closer to work and sort of, well, like most people, sort of trying to psych myself up and failing, what I was thinking about, have cars become too technical for their own good? Now, I'm not disputing, I'm not including technology that makes you go further on a tank. So I'm not to a point, I'm not mentioning stop-start, because you can't argue with the numbers to a point that the fact it saves you petrol or diesel, whatever fuel you're using, and get more out of a tank on it. You can't argue with hybrid technology to a point. I mean, it's not as efficient as it could be. We're sort of at the point now where we should have been 5-6 years ago with it. Adaptive aerodynamics and things like that. That's not really what I'm referring to. I'm referring to things like your Bluetooth entertainment systems, your radar-guided cruise controls, or even just standard cruise control, your automatic air conditioning, automatic climate control, and so on and so forth. It's kind of hard to decide whether they're good or bad. Now, I'm not a Luddite. I love my tech. I like odd bits of technology. I mean, like, for instance, I got my Ubuntu phone, which is completely different to Linux smartphone. I've got a beast of a PC, 6-core 20. Basically, the numbers mean it's a 6-core 21 gigahertz processor. And in the behemoth, I got an Xbox One, I got a PlayStation, got a Nintendo, I've had a 360, I still have it, but it's a bit on the dead side. I got a Mac. I've toyed with a tablet, but I can't really get myself excited too much about a tablet aside from maybe an Ubuntu tablet. But anyway, point is, what I'm saying is I'm not a Luddite. So I'm not technology is all bad. Back in my day, we had tin cans and string. That was our mobile communication. Now, my car, I've got a little Suzuki Swift. It's the basic entry model, mostly because I couldn't afford anything more, and I needed something quite quick to get me from A to B. But I basically got the basic entry model, so there's no extras on it. Maybe the fog lights are the extra. I don't know. But point is, it's basic. No Bluetooth. Not even air conditioning in the damn thing. Which at the moment I'm kind of regretting not having that, but they won't let me upgrade to a Bolero, whatever it's called. They won't let me upgrade to the new one yet. Interesting that I've not seen many of those around, so maybe I might get a panic sales call at some point. Anyway, point is, I got a car, pretty basic. Now, when I was growing up, my mum and dad always had nice Volvos, not massive top end Volvos. They weren't too far from the basic entry, or most of them weren't. That said, for instance, they had, I'm trying to think what year it was. I think it was 1997 off the top of my head, is it? 97, 98, Volvo 940 Celebration, which was the last of the 940 line, sort of the big farewell, good job 940. With that being the Celebration, it was the top-end model, loads of things on it. But even then, with what was available, it still, in many ways, was not as high-tech as even some of the basic entry models are these days. Someone might say, comparing a car from 1997 to 2016, there's 10 years further on in technology, etc. And yes, maybe things are 10 years further on, but with that, for instance, 940, top-end model, no cruise control on it. 2.3 litre light pressure turbo, so it had a pretty nice decent bit of oomph, but only a standard 5-speed manual. So it's sort of a give it one take with the other, and you'd have thought with the Celebration it might have had a slightly tighter sports chassis, but then again, it wasn't the sport mod. Yeah, what I'm saying is that even back then, that was not loaded with the technology that it could have been. And even then, for the rest of my childhood and teenhood, early adulthood, they weren't particularly tech crammed. You know, they had the air conditioning, they had the CDs, they had they had CD player and things like that, which they had heated seats, which is always Volvo heated seats. Oh, lovely. Anyway, point is they weren't too tech crammed. Now, one year when my dad was changing the car, because it was through some reasons that meant it had to be changed, and some because it's sort of, well, if we keep it much longer, it's going to have to start being MOTs, tyres, etc. So it's sort of personal reasons and sort of a financial reasons, if you like. Now, what was going to be bought was a base entry V70 with an automatic gearbox. Now, what he got instead was a V70, a used V70. I think it was an SE Lux or an SE Sport Lux, which had everything on it. Well, just about everything. To buy it new, it knocked you back at least 30 grand. That was an unusual... The first time I sort of sat in the vehicle, sort of a little bit overwhelmed by all the leather and how comfortable the seats were. Because whilst the Volvo V40 is... No, was it V40? Yes, it was a V40. Whilst the Volvo V40 was quite comfortable in its time, that was just something altogether different. It was just gorgeous, basically. But the sways of tech that were in it, like the Bluetooth, even the stupidly basic things of a multi-changer CD, electric power memory seat, cruise control, hand adjusted speaker on the steering wheel, and track changer and cruise control setter on the steering wheel. It was nuts to me. Loved it, but it was nuts to me. Even with that, it was not tech crammed. It was luxury, but it was not tech crammed. People who know me know my opinion on some things that I personally think, if you're able-bodied, you should drive a manual. You shouldn't drive an automatic if you're not if you're able-bodied. The only exception to that rule would be, because I've said to my dad several times, because sometimes he's said, did I do the right thing with that car? And I've said 1,000 times that yes, I would have done exactly the same thing if I was trading in my Suzuki now, and someone said, well, actually we got a top line V40 or we've got a top line S60. It's about 2.5 years old, but it's top of the range, or was top of the range at its time. What do you want to do? And I'd have gone, I'll take it. I would do the same thing. There's a difference between top-end luxury and just gadgets for gadgets. The most gadgety thing any of my parents' cars have been probably the Bluetooth, the cruise control, and the automatic gearbox. That's probably it, aside from maybe now four-wheel drive on one of them, I think. Is it all-wheel or four-wheel? Don't know, but it's a step up again. But again, it's not. It's the thing. There's a fine line between things that make driving easier and things that distract you from driving. Now, when I've driven down to see my parents in my Suzuki, it's about 180-mile drive. Have there been occasions where I've been fed up with it and wanted something quieter, faster, maybe even... Yes, admittedly, sometimes, because we're all human. We're all a bit lazy. Let's be honest. Who is not going to want to drive the whole distance and then all that distance go, no, I want the hardcore drive it the whole way. Some days, yes, I do. Sometimes when it's been a little bit of a daunting prospect a couple of times on the journey. Well, maybe not daunting, more there's no relenting from it. So things like cruise control would make that a little easier to a point. But then you start becoming reliant on it. So Bluetooth initially was a brilliant idea for people, because then you could answer your phone whilst you're driving, not having to or sort of do that, or put the phone somewhere and sort of shout to speak into the phone. So yes, it was initially good. But now, since smartphones dominate people's lives, maybe it's not such a good idea anymore. Dashboards that can get your Facebook and your text messages, and you can auto-dictate text messages into the car, and it will send it via the phone and things like that. Maybe that's just too much. Maybe it is one step too far. The big thing that gets my goat at the moment, and I deliberately kept out the introduction because, well, I could rant on it all day, so, is the facility that a lot of car manufacturers offer. I know Volvo do it, I know Kia do, I know Ford do, I know Lexus do. I think Lexus actually developed it originally, or at least I think we're amongst the first to put it on an option on I think it was the GS 600 saloon, and he said sedan, I said saloon. And I'm not talking Scottish. Sit down. Right. Anyway, it's the thing that automatically, you basically select the space. You basically parallel parks for you. Now, we've got some family friends. The person in particular I'm thinking of would say, if you can't do that, you shouldn't drive, or you should at least not do that. And I agree. Rather than having that sort of model, that sort of option, if you can't parallel park a bit further away and walk a little further. It's not the end of the world if you've got to walk another 2 or 3 minutes. I often park as far away as I can in the car park just to have a bit of an extra walk, because, well, like I said, I'm able-bodied, and I'm fit, a bit fat but fit. What's the deal with why can't I walk a little bit further? I don't need to park next to the front door, unlike a lot of people I see at supermarkets and things who rush to get to the front. So that would, to me, would say, well, you know, I hate parallel parking myself. I never was very good at it on my driving lessons. I just about nailed it in time for my test. Thankfully, I never had to do that on my test, because I probably would have failed again. But, you know, it's one of these things, why do you need an option to do that when just don't do it? Not admitting you're not going to do it is not being lazy. If it's a big enough space, then do the cheaters way and drive in forwards. It doesn't matter how many times you shunt backwards and forwards, as long as you're not causing an obstruction to people or stopping people from getting along, and as long as you're not hitting people or cars or both. It doesn't matter how long you spend shunting backwards and forwards. There's some evenings I spend a good 2 or 3 minutes shunting backwards and forwards because I'm too far away from the curb. Well, for my liking, I'm too far away from the curb. A lot of people say, Chris, you can't get a ghost's far between your wheel and the curb. I'm like, yeah, most of the time you can't. But given how some people on my street park about that far away from the curb, and they've already got a big people carrier or a big BMW X6, it's every little inch counts for some places around, especially if police and things have got or emergency vehicles have got to go up and down. They can't do it otherwise. It's important to, like I say, not all this technology is a bad thing. It's a brilliant thing to show that a computer can reverse a car into a space with nothing but cameras and you just changing the gear, basically. But if you can't, like I say, if you can't do it, don't do it. You don't need an option to do that. Save yourself a few £100 or £1,000. Don't put it on the car. Automakers, just don't do it. You're encouraging people to be lazy in that aspect, encouraging the instant gratification that this society longs for and craves and thrives upon these days, which is awful. Cruise control is another one that I'm a bit hit and miss about. If you're disabled, it's a good thing, because then it means for some people that have spinal or leg problems, they can't keep their foot pressed on the throttle the entire time, or if they're having a bad day, they can't always do it, which is fine. If you've been an able-bodied person who's done a little too much, might have done a little too much exercise or laid funny, might feel a bit, ooh, that's a bit uncomfortable on yourself the next day when trying to press the throttle in your car, or the accelerator, shall we put it, because we've got an electric car, but there we are. But it's not something to rely on. If you're driving up and down the motorway all day, you're just encouraging yourself to switch off. You're not focused fully on the driving. It's very easy to, because you're not having to constantly modulate your speed and keep an eye on your speedo, it might be okay for a short journey, but if I was cruising all the way down to London from Middlesbrough and didn't want to stop, one, it tricks you into thinking that you're not tired, despite the fact you're actually having to focus a bit on the driving. Then you've got too much attention to place elsewhere. So you will fiddle with your phone, you will make calls, you will do things that you shouldn't be doing. Radar-guided cruise control, the one that speeds up and slows down for you, if you can't maintain a gap and need a machine to do it, if you're too lazy to slow down, you shouldn't be bloody driving. It's just encouraging laziness. I know, again, appreciate it is a massive technological, look at me, we can do it. It reminds me of some of the technology that's in cars these days. It reminds me a little bit of Jurassic Park. I can't think of the exact words. Like, you realise you could do it, but you never stop to think whether you should. It's not to say that all the technology that's gone into cars these days is bad, but I'm just fed up with how much with them. I think they're too techy. Some of them. Like I said, there are some things that I think should be reserved for people who don't have the same abilities that able-bodied people do. Like I said, so automatic gearbox, power memory seats, cruise control, electronic tailgates, that sort of thing. That sort of thing, yes, it should be reserved for people like that. People who are without that sort of technology, they're sort of basically almost housebound. Because for some people, shutting the boot is quite hard work if it's a big vehicle. For some people, shifting gears is just too difficult. You've got to think. There are some things that are just unnecessary on a car when it comes to technology and gadgets. Now, as already stated, however many thousands of times I've said it, not thousands, obviously. But there comes a point where where some of the technology is a bit silly. Like on the E60 BMW M5, the V10 one, you can choose how many seconds you want the lights to stay on when you get home. I don't know about anyone, but I'm sure BMW could either program that to be a set time, or I know Volvo used to do this. I'm sort of seeing key fobs for Vauxhalls and Skodas and other things that have done this. There's a button that just the lights go on. That's it. You don't need a special part of the computer to do it. Maybe if we got rid of some of these gadgets, maybe we could go further on a tank. Maybe we won't need so much of this hybrid and so much of this miles per gallon gaining technology. Maybe, just maybe, it might teach you to be a better driver. I know from driving my basic little Swift, there's a lot of things about driving I have learnt. I know I've forgotten a lot from my lessons. Well, mind you, like a lot of people who learn, there are some things that just go out the window straight away. Or you try to keep hold of them, but they just become quite hit and miss. Which, show me someone who's learned who has not picked up a bad habit or two here and there. You've got to get people's minds away from the gadgets and get their attentions back on the road. I think that's the long and the short of it. I loved when I went and had a look at Subaru not long ago. If Subaru are watching, I would tell you what exactly I would like. I would like, because they sent me this because I've asked for a brochure a while ago. I would like that, please. Or if some anonymous YouTuber is willing to donate me, we'll say £19,000 just to cover off any tax and things I may need to pay on the car. But if someone's willing enough to pay me enough to get the Subaru, basically in Brett's I looked at, there's no options. The only options you have are paint colour, leather or cloth, automatic or manual. Otherwise, it's bone stock. Everyone pretty much has the same model across the range. Not sure if that's the same across the rest of the Subaru range, but on the Impreza, that's what it was. No choices of engines. No, it was just that's your engine, that's your gearbox, that's your options, that's your air conditioning, that's this, job done. And I think maybe more manufacturers need to start being like that. Maybe we've got to start taking options away. maybe some options have got to become uber taxed, basically. So there's got to be so much VAT if it's a luxury item. Maybe it shouldn't be VAT on a whole car. Maybe it should be VAT on an item, on an option. So no value-added tax on the basic car, but then start adding things on that are considered luxuries. Now, it's again, some people say, well, heated seats are a luxury, and like, yeah, maybe they are, but things like the radar-guided cruise control, things like the electronic tailgate, things like the Bluetooth systems, they should all become VAT related because of just how lazy it makes people. It's hard to say what else they need to do on it. If you've got a different opinion, I'm happy to debate it on Skype. We can maybe even record it, and we can have a video of a Skype debate about what is or isn't the best way to go when it comes to automotive technology. Or we can have a sensible comment battle in the comments. I just realised how silly that sounds, but we can have a, we can talk about what it is in the comments. It's, I don't know, it's my opinion. Maybe it's a little outspoken, maybe it's a little different, maybe it's a bit, you're a bloody idiot sort of thing. But obviously, as is with anything, whether it's a blog or a vlog or an article or a review, it's my opinion. And my opinion is, to put it in short, my opinion is car manufacturers are encouraging people to be lazy drivers. People are becoming reliant on said lazy technology. People's driving standards are dropping because of it. And it just fuels this instant gratification. I want it now that the society has become. But anyway, I'll leave it there. We'll get to the end of that. It's again, it's been a long old video, which was not the intention. But like I say, if you've got an alternate view, let me know. We'll see what we can do. Keep watching the channel for more videos. Hopefully, we can get some more out at some point in the near future. Keep checking out Velocity Kinetics blog. If you want first aid training, contact premiernorth.co.uk and we'll book you in a first aid session. If you want some top quality racing parts or any parts for your vehicle, head over to roadraceparts.com. Good prices. Everything I've got from there has been absolutely solid and brilliant. But anyway, we'll catch you soon, and remember, stay safe, drive safe, think person, think bike, think car. Just look after yourselves.
Velocity Kinetics has been made in association with Road Race Parts. Top quality, best prices, no compromise. Head to roadraceparts.com to get parts for your racing vehicles now.